everybody. Welcome back to Hauntflix Horrors, the place where nightmares come to life. If you love spine-chilling tales that send shivers down your spine, you've come to the right place. Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button for more terrifying stories that will keep you up at night. Are you ready to be scared? Because the darkness is waiting. Let's dive in. Happened when I was in my early 20s. I was working in a retail store at a mall, but there weren't enough hours. So I asked my boss if there was anything else I could do. She mentioned that another location at a different mall needed more people, so I could work there on weekends. The only downside was that the bus route to that mall was longer, but at least I didn't have to make any transfers. I got up early that Saturday and caught the first bus I could. The ride started off normal, giving me a glimpse of parts of the city I hadn't seen before. But soon enough, the bus entered a dingy neighborhood. Trash littered the streets, and abandoned buildings, houses, and cars became more common. The contrast to the nice neighborhood where I was headed made me uneasy, but I reassured myself that I was safely on the bus. At one stop, an elderly lady got on. No one offered her a seat, so I did. I moved to stand by the side door, holding the pole as the bus continued its route. I glanced over at a guy next to me and asked if he knew how much longer it would take to reach my stop. Before he could answer, the bus slowed down, and someone hit the buzzer to get off. The doors next to me opened, and in a split second, I felt hands grab my free arm and yank me hard. My instincts kicked in, and I immediately tensed up, reflexively clenching the pole tighter. It took a moment for my brain to catch up and realize what was happening. A tall man in a white tank top, blue jeans, and white tennis shoes had come out of nowhere, grabbed my arm, and was trying to drag me off the bus. I was pulled down to the second step before I even fully understood what was going on. My purse, dangling from the arm he was pulling, slipped down, and I actually tried to shake it off, thinking he was after it. But he had no interest in my purse. He was after me. I was just about to start screaming for help when I felt someone grab my waist from behind, pulling me back into the bus. The man yanking me off seemed to realize he was losing his grip, and after a tense moment, he let go and bolted down the street. The doors slammed shut, and I could hear the man who saved me mutter something like, "You don't come back from that place." My mind was reeling. I barely registered what had happened. I didn't thank the man who saved me. I didn't tell the driver, and I didn't call the police. The rest of the day passed in a haze. I don't remember the shift at the other location or the ride home. It was like my body was moving on autopilot, but my mind was miles away. It wasn't until I got home, showered, and changed into my nightgown that I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at nothing. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I almost got kidnapped. I could have been taken, and who knows what would have happened to me. A shiver ran down my spine as I thought about how close I had come to vanishing without a trace. Regret gnawed at me. I regretted not calling the police to report the man, to warn other women. And I regretted not thanking the person who saved me, not getting his name, not staying in contact. I tried to reach out afterward, posting on Craigslist in the hopes he might see it. But deep down, I knew the chances were slim. The memory of that day still haunts me, a constant reminder of how quickly life can change, or end. I'm 25, born and raised in Arizona, and what happened to me tonight still has me shaken. I decided to share it here because I can't shake the feeling that something much worse could have happened. To set the stage, I'm a huge stoner and don't drive, so I often rely on buses to get around. Tonight, around 8:30 p.m., I decided to head to the dispensary a few miles away to pick up my favorite indica cart, Purple Punch. The streets were unusually quiet, but I didn't think much of it. I was just focused on getting my cart and heading back home. After making my purchase, I walked back towards the bus stop. As I approached, I noticed a guy sitting on the bench. He looked a little out of place, but I didn't pay him much attention. I'm pretty antisocial, so I was prepared to just sit there in silence until my bus arrived. But as soon as I sat down, he started talking to me. I had my headphones on, so I couldn't hear him clearly at first. I pulled them off and asked, "What was that?" He stared at me with unnervingly wide eyes, not blinking once, and asked, "Did you want to get your hair cut?" The question threw me off. His eyes were bloodshot, and if I had to guess, he was definitely on something. I wasn't about to judge him. I've seen addiction up close before, but his behavior was unsettling. I awkwardly declined, saying, "Oh, I'm all right." That's when I noticed his outfit, an Arizona Cardinals uniform. Since I'm a big Cardinals fan, I thought maybe I could steer the conversation into something normal. "Hey, you a Cardinals fan?" I asked, trying to ease the tension. He gave me a strange look before replying, "No, I just got this a few months ago." The whole situation was starting to feel off, but I tried to keep things light. So how long you been cutting hair?" I asked, my unease growing. Without blinking, he answered, "Just picked it up a few months ago." I pressed further, trying to figure out what was going on. "Who taught you how to cut hair?" His eyes shifted slightly, and he said, "I learned on my own. Come on, man, let me touch up the back a little bit." At this point, alarm bells were ringing in my head. He was way too persistent, repeatedly pushing to cut my hair. I even tried to put him off by saying, "Yo, I don't have any cash on me right now," hoping that would deter him. But he brushed it off, saying, "That's no problem. I got my clippers in my bag. Come on." I was officially freaked out. I decided to be honest with him. "Listen, I'm real sorry. I just don't feel comfortable getting haircuts from people I don't know, especially at night. You feel me?" His expression remained eerily blank the entire time. After a long, uncomfortable pause, he finally said, "True that," but continued to stare right through me. I knew I had to get out of there. The bus stop was conveniently located in front of a Circle K, so I made an excuse to myself and walked inside to buy some time. The bus wasn't due for another 17 minutes, and I didn't want to stay out there with him. I lingered in the store for about 6 or 7 minutes, feeling the tension building in my chest. As I stepped out of the store, I nearly bumped into him. He was walking in as I was walking out, still staring at me with that same unsettling intensity. My heart raced, but I managed to slip past him and quickly made my way to another bus stop down the street. I didn't want to risk waiting at the same stop as him. The bus finally arrived, and as I got on, I noticed him sitting at the back. Thankfully, he didn't approach me again, but I kept my eyes trained on the floor the entire ride, refusing to look in his direction. My mind was racing, replaying the entire encounter. Something about it just felt wrong. I can't shake the feeling that I narrowly avoided something terrible tonight. The way he looked at me, the way he insisted on cutting my hair. It wasn't just weird, it was terrifying. What if I hadn't been able to get away? What if he had followed me off the bus? As I sit here typing this, I keep wondering how I could have handled it differently. Should I have gone to the police? Should I have said something to the bus driver? One thing's for sure. I'm never going back to that bus stop at night. Not after what happened tonight.
It was nearly midnight when I found myself stranded at the bus station. My shift at the hospital had run late, and the last bus home was my only option. The station was almost deserted, with only a few flickering lights casting long, eerie shadows across the cracked pavement. The silence was heavy, broken only by the occasional hum of a distant car or the soft rustling of the wind. I shivered, pulling my jacket tighter around me as I sat down on the cold metal bench. The bus was supposed to arrive in 10 minutes, but time seemed to crawl. My phone buzzed with a low battery warning, and I cursed under my breath. The signal was weak, and the few texts I tried to send failed to go through. I was utterly alone, or so I thought. It started with a whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then I heard it again, clearer this time. A soft, indistinct murmur that seemed to come from all directions at once. I glanced around, my heart pounding in my chest. There was no one else there, just the empty platform stretching out into the darkness. "Hello!" I called out, my voice echoing off the concrete walls. No response. Just that whisper, growing louder, yet still impossible to understand. I stood up, my nerves on edge, and took a few hesitant steps toward the edge of the platform. The shadows seemed to deepen, swallowing the light. As I peered into the darkness, I felt a cold breeze brush against the back of my neck, making the hairs on my arms stand on end. And then I saw it, a figure standing at the far end of the platform. It was barely more than a silhouette, but there was something off about it. The way it stood, completely still with no discernible features, just a dark, human-shaped void in the night. I blinked, and it was closer. My breath hitched as I stumbled back, my mind racing. I hadn't seen it move, but there it was, a few feet closer than before. The whispers grew louder, circling around me like a suffocating fog. I fumbled for my phone, desperate to call someone, anyone, but the screen was dead. Panic surged through me as the figure took another step forward, its movements unnaturally smooth, almost like it was gliding. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice trembling, but the figure didn't answer. Instead, the whispers shifted, forming words I could finally understand.
"Who are you?" I shouted, my voice trembling. But the figure didn't answer. Instead, the whispers shifted, forming words I could finally understand. "Leave. Now." I didn't need to be told twice. I turned on my heel and sprinted toward the station entrance, my footsteps echoing in the empty space. But no matter how fast I ran, I could still hear the whispers. Closer now, almost in my ear. The lights above me flickered wildly, casting strange, distorted shadows that seemed to reach out toward me. I burst through the station doors, my lungs burning, only to be met with more darkness. The street outside was empty, the usual buzz of the city eerily absent. Desperate, I looked back, expecting to see the figure standing in the doorway. But it was gone. The station was silent again, the lights steady. It was as if nothing had happened, but I knew better. Just then, the bus pulled up, its headlights cutting through the gloom. I didn't hesitate, rushing to the doors as they hissed open. The driver gave me a puzzled look as I collapsed into a seat, my body trembling with fear. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gruff but concerned. I nodded, unable to find the words. As the bus pulled away from the station, I glanced out the window, half expecting to see the figure standing there, watching me leave. But there was nothing, just the empty platform receding into the distance. The ride home was a blur, my thoughts consumed by what I had seen, or thought I had seen. By the time I reached my stop, I was exhausted, the adrenaline crash leaving me shaky and weak. I stumbled off the bus, barely managing a mumbled thank you to the driver, and hurried home, locking the door behind me as soon as I stepped inside. It was only later, lying in bed, that I noticed something strange. My jacket, the one I had been wearing at the bus station, felt heavier than usual. I reached into the pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. Unfolding it, I froze. Written in shaky, barely legible handwriting were the words, "You were warned." I stared at the note, my mind racing. How had it gotten there? Had someone slipped it into my pocket without me noticing? But the most terrifying realization was yet to come. As I turned the paper over, I saw a date written on the back. It was from 5 years ago, the same date as the night a man had gone missing at that very bus station, never to be seen again. My blood ran cold. I dropped the note, watching it flutter to the floor as the whispers echoed in my mind. Leave, now. And I knew, deep down, that whatever was haunting that station wasn't finished with me.